بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا Muhammad سيد الأولين والآخرين. Last time, the sixth lesson, we were talking about the types of conclusions and rulings held by mainstream orthodoxy, mainstream scholars, and we said that there are three, right? Mental, those related to habits, and those related to Sharia. What do we mean by mental? That the mind affirms something's existence or non-existence. So, for example, I could say the sun is out today. If you looked outside and you saw the moon, you would intellectually conclude that that's impossible, right? That's not true. You would deny it, right? That's called muhal. If you saw that the sun was out, then you would affirm it. The second is habits. So habits will be a determining factor in the presence and existence of something. So if we were to say, if you go outside and it's cold and you don't cover your hair after taking a shower, you're probably going to get sick, right? Habit informs you that that's the case. You can ask thousands of people who've gotten sick, who've done that, and there you go. The third is Sharia, and this is really cool. Check this out. It'll help you understand Islam better. Sharia rulings, we suspend these two, right? And we leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the most part. So, for example, salah. Salah is 5 times a day. I don't bring my mind into it and say, why it's not 3? Or I don't bring my mind to it and say, what, it's hot outside, I shouldn't pray dhuhr. La, I submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's why it's called Islam. I submit to those rulings. Now, at times, there'll be intersectionality between the three. Let me give you one example. Between habits and Sharia. One of the major axioms of Islamic law, we'll talk about this in another course, is al-urf muhakkam. And what that means is that the customs of people at times can be deciders and take precedent on issues. We'll talk about it in the future. The first PhD done in Al-Azhar in the 1920s was on this topic. But let me give an example of the intersection between habit and Sharia. You'll never find in any book of fiqh that says a woman's menstrual cycle has to be a set number of days. It's always left to ada. It's always left to ada. In the Maliki madhab, they say that, taking a break while in the middle of making wudu, what determines if you have to start your wudu over again or not is the ada of where you live, if your limbs dried, for example, because of hot weather or cold weather or whatever. The point is that I'm trying to show you that sometimes those three will have intersectionality. But our discussion now, and that's why the Sheikh says, bi wujub al-ma'rifa in line 5, is on mental conclusions. Mental conclusions. And the grammar to help our minds think properly is logic. What grammar is to reading and writing and speaking, logic is to conclusions. And that's why one of the 11 major subjects or core subjects of Islam is mantiq, is logic. We don't have time to study mantiq now. We'll do it in the future. But when we're talking about the mind's conclusions, we're talking about 3 possibilities that I want you to think about. And the Sheikh, he mentions them here. Ibn Ashur says, أقسام مقتضاه بالحصر تماز. He says that the types of conclusions related to the mind are restricted to the following. وهي الوجوب الاستحالة الجواز. So I'm reading this right here, guys. أقسام مقتضاه بالحصر تماز. وهي, it's not وهي, there's a different قراءة in the Quran. وهي على كل شيء قدير. وهو, sorry. This is وهي, but there's also وهو. وهو على كل شيء قدير. But here, وهي الوجوب, which means self-evident, استحالة, inconceivable, al-jawaz, conceivable. So he's saying that the mind's conclusions are really 3. Number 1 is wajib. What does wajib mean? Doesn't mean wajib shar'i. It means here intellectually, based on logic. لا يقبل النفي بحال. He says that wajib is what does not accept negation. So, for example, could you deny that I'm speaking right now? If I was standing in front of you and talking, right? For the most part, it would be impossible for you to negate that. So that's called wajib aqli. If you were to look up and see the sun above you, wajib aqli. The fact that you're alive is wajib aqli. لا يقبل النفي. It does not accept negation. So that means you have to affirm its existence. Remember this. The underlying discussion here is about Adam and wujud. something does not exist, or something exists based on the mind's conclusion. So the first is wajib aqli. لا يقبل النفي بحال. It does not accept negation. The second is called muhal, right? And he says, وَمَا أَبَى ثُبُوتَ عَقْلًا الْمُحَال. What that means is it's inconceivable. It's impossible for you to affirm it. So if I said, I have wings and I can fly, هذا محال. How that's impossible. That you're not alive right now, هذا محال. It's impossible, right? Those are called muhal. You have to affirm the fact that they do not exist. It's inconceivable. خلاص. وَجَائِزٌ مَا قَابِلُ الْأَمْرَيْنِ السِّمْ. And the last are conceivables. What its existence is conceivable or not. It's called jaiz. So the Sheikh, he says, مَا قَابِلُ الْأَمْرَيْنِ السِّمْ. It can accept either one of the two issues. And what he means by the two issues here is existence or non-existence. And this line right here is where we're going to stop. We're going to pick up next time. But I want you to remember this, that each one of those three, wajib, inconceivable, or conceivable, all fall under two methods of proving their existence or non-existence. He says, لِضُرُورِيِّ وَالنَّظَرِ كُلُّ قِسْم, which means that there are some which are self-evident or necessary, right? And there's others that require proof. Now, this is important as we lead into a discussion about the existence of God and how classical scholars, as I hope you're seeing now, married the sacred with the intellect. Barakallahu feekum wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. What I want you to take from this is that the mind's conclusions, right, hukum aqli, comes about through one of three ways. Something which is wajib, you have to conceive it. It's just, you don't give it a second thought, right? Number two, muhal, inconceivable, right? It's impossible to affirm it. And then the third is conceivable. Maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't exist. So wajib al-wujud, its existence is an obligation. Mahal wujud, its existence is impossible. Jaiz wujud, it's possible or not possible. And each one of those falls under ad-dururi, self-evident, or nadari, needing dalil. Remember that word, needing proof. The next slide, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to talk about how all that plays out in a discussion about God, about faith, about issues of the unseen, and what is the logical ruling scholars applied to affirming the existence of God. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad.